Paris is gorgeous. It is also packed, pricey, and photographed to death. So we found 15 European towns that give you the same magic, minus the crowds and the markup. Some are cheaper, some are quieter. One of them might just be the most beautiful place you have never heard of. Number 15 is where we start, and it only gets better from here. Number 15. Ghent, Belgium. Everyone rushes to Bruges. Big mistake. Ghent has the same canals. It has the same medieval skyline. It has about half the tourists standing in your photos. You get castle views, cobblestone streets, and Belgian fries without fighting a crowd for the shot. The city's Gravenstein Castle, a genuine medieval fortress, still stands right in the middle of downtown, and you can walk through it for a fraction of what a Paris museum ticket costs. Climb the Belfry of Ghent for a view over the whole city. 3 medieval towers rising above the rooftops in a single skyline. That view alone would headline most European cities. Here, it barely gets a mention. Ghent is also simply cheaper. A solid sit-down dinner here costs noticeably less than the tourist trap prices in Bruges, which sits just 1 hour away by train. It is not flawless. Ghent's charm is quieter than Bruges, so if you want the postcard fairy tale crammed into every corner, you may find this city a little more workaday. Locals will tell you Bruges is the museum piece, and Ghent is the living city. They are not wrong. This is a university town, and it feels like one. Students fill the cafes along the water, bikes outnumber cars, and the whole place has an energy that a lot of picture-perfect European towns simply do not bother with anymore. Even the food reflects it. Late-night waffle stands and cheap student bars sit just steps from centuries-old guild houses, and somehow neither feels out of place next to the other. Ghent saves its best trick for after dark. Once the sun drops, the entire old center gets lit like a stage set, and almost nobody outside Belgium seems to know to plan for it. Colmar, up next, does not need the dark to pull off the same trick. It looks like a fairy tale in broad daylight. Number 14. Colmar, France. Picture the town from Beauty and the Beast. Now make it real. That is Colmar. Half-timbered houses in pastel pink, blue, and yellow line canals so charming they practically feel staged. They are not staged. People actually live here, and have for centuries. This town sits in the Alsace region, right on the border between France and Germany, and the culture reflects it completely. Street signs and menus blend both languages. The food blends French technique with German comfort, which means you eat extremely well without paying Parisian prices. Wander the district known as Little Venice, where flower-covered footbridges cross narrow canals lined with cafes. It is one of the most photographed corners of the entire Alsace region, and for good reason, which also means midday in summer gets crowded fast. Rent a small, flat-bottomed boat and drift through the canals at your own pace. It sounds touristy. It does not feel touristy once you are actually gliding past window boxes stuffed with geraniums in near silence, with nothing but the paddle in the water breaking the quiet. Here is the part most travelers miss completely. Colmar is not just pretty on its own. It sits at the center of one of France's most underrated wine regions. The vineyards start just minutes outside town, tucked along a scenic route dotted with even smaller storybook villages. Before we get to number 13, hit that subscribe button right now. Building a list like this takes real research into every single town, and subscribing tells us to keep making them. In return, you get first access to every underrated destination we uncover before it ever shows up on anyone else's radar. Colmar plays it soft and pastel. Sintra plays it dramatic. All fog and turrets, like something a royal family built specifically to be stared at for 2 centuries. Number 13. Sintra, Portugal. Sintra looks like someone built a fantasy movie set into the mountains outside Lisbon. It genuinely does. Peña Palace sits on top of a hill wrapped in fog for much of the year, painted in bold reds and yellows that look almost unreal in photographs. It is real. It has been standing since the 1800s, built as a summer retreat for Portuguese royalty. Just downhill sits Quinta da Regaleira, an estate hiding a nearly 90-foot underground spiral staircase built purely for dramatic effect. It looks like something out of a puzzle box because that is basically what it was designed to be. There is also the Moorish castle, ruins of a fortress dating back over 1,000 years, sitting on a ridge above town. Climb its walls and you can see all the way to the Atlantic coastline on a clear day, with Lisbon itself sometimes visible as a faint outline on the horizon. Most tourists treat Sintra as a rushed day trip from Lisbon. That is the mistake. Stay one night, and you get the palace grounds almost to yourself before the tour buses roll in. Skip that, and you should expect long lines, packed shuttle buses up the hill, and a town that feels more like a theme park than a fairy tale by early afternoon. Sintra earns its fairy tale reputation fair and square, but it is not the town that Walt Disney's own animators actually walked through with sketchbooks in hand. That distinction belongs to a small German town built almost entirely of timber and crooked rooftops. Number 12. Rothenburg, ob der Tauber, Germany. This is the town that helped inspire the fictional village in Pinocchio. Walt Disney's team actually visited here for research before designing that film. Rothenburg survived World War II almost entirely intact, which means the medieval walls, the towers, and the crooked little streets are not a reconstruction. They are the real thing, some of it dating back over 600 years. There is nothing rushed about wandering here either. Every alley feels built for lingering, not for cutting through on the way to somewhere else. Walk the entire city wall for free. It takes about an hour, and it gives you rooftop views most tourists never bother to find, since the walk starts just past the main square where everyone else stops. Duck into the Medieval Crime and Punishment Museum while you are there. It is a strange, slightly unsettling look at how justice worked centuries ago in a town that otherwise feels almost too sweet to be real. There is one very specific tradition here that turns this quiet German town into something completely different every December. Rothenburg runs one of the oldest and most famous Christmas markets in the entire country. Shops that sell ornaments and decorations even stay open year-round for exactly that reason, which also means the town can feel a little too gift shop heavy outside the holiday season. Rothenburg is frozen in time, all timber and stone. Ljubljana is the opposite kind of surprise, a capital city small enough to feel like a secret, and most travelers cannot even place it on a map. Number 11. Ljubljana, Slovenia. Slovenia's capital does not get nearly enough credit, and that is honestly good news for you. A dragon-guarded bridge, a hilltop castle, a river lined with outdoor cafes. Ljubljana packs an entire European vacation into a city you can walk across in about 20 minutes. The historic center is almost completely pedestrian, closed off to cars decades ago. That means no traffic noise, no exhaust fumes, just people, cafes, and the slow-moving river beneath centuries-old bridges. Take the funicular up to Ljubljana Castle for panoramic views over red rooftops and the mountains beyond. Then come back down and grab dinner along the riverbank for a price that would barely cover an appetizer in central Paris. Saturday mornings bring an open-air market to the riverside. Stalls of local cheese, honey, and produce set up right along the water, with vendors who have been running the same stalls for generations. The city also happens to be one of the greenest capitals in Europe. Parks and tree-lined paths sit within walking distance of nearly everything. The trade-off is that Ljubljana is small. If you want big city energy and non-stop nightlife, one afternoon here might feel like plenty. This is not something you can say about most European capitals this size. What comes next also punches above its size, but trades a quiet river for an entire wine trade that once ran straight through its harbor. Number 10. Porto, Portugal. Porto is what happens when a city refuses to sell out. Tiled buildings stack up the riverbank in every color imaginable. Below them, the Douro River carries traditional boats that once hauled port wine down from the vineyards upstream. Speaking of which, this is the actual birthplace of port wine. Cellar tours across the river in Vila Nova de Gaia run at a fraction of what a similar tasting experience costs in France. Most include several pours, plus a full explanation of how the wine is aged in oak barrels for years before it ever reaches a bottle. Cross the double-decker Dom Luis Bridge on foot for one of the best skyline views in the entire country. Then wander down into the Ribera district for narrow alleys packed with tiny family-run restaurants. Livraria Lello, one of the oldest bookstores in the country, sits just uphill from the river. Its carved wooden staircase reportedly helped inspire scenes in the Harry Potter books, and the line to get inside now runs long enough that many visitors give up and admire it from outside instead. A full day of sightseeing, wine tasting, and a proper seafood dinner here costs less than a single museum ticket in Paris. That gap alone should tell you everything about why this city deserves a much bigger spot on your itinerary. Porto also gets far less rainfall hype than it deserves credit for handling well. Locals joke that the gray skies are what keep the crowds thinner than Lisbon's, though it does mean packing a rain jacket even in the warmer months. Porto proves an old city can still surprise you. The next one is not just old. It might be one of the oldest continuously lived in places on the entire continent, and almost nobody outside its own region has heard of it. Number 9. Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Most people cannot point to Plovdiv on a map. That is exactly the point. This is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in Europe, older than Rome, older than Athens. A Roman amphitheater still sits in the middle of the old town, carved into a hillside nearly 2,000 years ago, and it still hosts live concerts today. The old town itself is a maze of colorful 19th century houses built along cobblestone streets that wind up a hill dotted with ancient ruins. Turn one corner and you find Roman mosaics. Turn the next and you find a rooftop cafe. Local artists have quietly taken over many of the old buildings, turning them into small galleries and studios you can wander into without an entrance fee. The city also earned the title of European Capital of Culture in 2019. This pushed a wave of restoration into the old town, without stripping away the character that made it worth visiting in the first place. Prices here run so low they barely feel like Europe at all. A full meal with wine can cost less than a coffee and pastry near the Eiffel Tower. Bulgaria as a whole flies under the radar for most Western European travelers, and Plovdiv is exactly the kind of city that benefits from that. Streets that would be jammed with tour groups in Italy or France sit here almost empty, even during peak summer months, though that also means fewer English menus and a bit more legwork planning ahead. Plovdiv trades in ruins and quiet streets. What comes next trades ruins for water so clear it barely looks real, sitting right at the foot of the Alps. Number 8. Annecy, France. They call this the Venice of the Alps, and for once, the nickname actually holds up. Crystal-clear canals cut through a medieval old town, with snow-capped mountains rising directly behind it. Lake Annecy itself is considered one of the cleanest lakes in all of Europe, clear enough that you can see the bottom several meters down. You can swim in the same water the town's founders looked out on centuries ago, then hike a mountain trail an hour later, and finish the day with a proper French dinner beside the canal. Rent a bike and ride the full loop around the lake, a paved path that takes you through small villages most day trippers never even notice exist. You will pass private docks and old stone churches tucked right at the water's edge. The old town itself dates back to the medieval period. It has a former prison sitting on a tiny island in the middle of the canal, now serving as the town's most photographed building. Annecy sits close enough to Geneva for an easy day trip, but stay the night instead. The old town transforms once the crowds thin out. Come in July or August and expect the lakefront packed shoulder to shoulder. Shoulder season here is worth planning around. Before the next picturesque location, tap that like button right now. Doing that tells YouTube to show this video to more travelers who need it. In exchange, you help someone else avoid wasting their trip on an overcrowded destination they will regret ever booking. Every stop so far has kept you above ground. What comes next drops you underneath it, into a city carved out of caves that people have called home since long before Rome existed. Number 7. Matera, Italy. Matera looks like it belongs on another planet, and film crews clearly agree. Scenes from major Hollywood productions, including a recent James Bond film, have been shot right in its ancient cave streets. This city is built into and around cave dwellings called sassi, some of which have been continuously inhabited for thousands of years. Entire neighborhoods carved directly into limestone cliffs, stacked one on top of another like something out of a different era entirely. Archaeologists believe some of these caves have been inhabited continuously since the Paleolithic period. This would make Matera one of the oldest continually inhabited settlements on the entire planet, not just in Europe. For most of the 20th century, this place was considered a national embarrassment, a symbol of extreme poverty that the Italian government worked to relocate residents away from. Then it got cleaned up, restored, and recognized. Now it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most unique stays in the entire country. Sleep in a converted cave hotel for one night, and you will understand why the turnaround happened. What used to be considered Italy's shame is now one of its most unforgettable destinations. Walk the Sassi at night, when the whole hillside glows with warm lighting tucked into every cave doorway. It looks nothing like it did during the day, and most tourists never bother sticking around long enough to see it. The trade-off for that stillness is limited nightlife and few late-night options once dinner wraps up. Matera looks like nowhere else on Earth. The next stop hides a completely different kind of drama. a town squeezed so tightly into a fjord that it barely looks like it belongs in Europe at all. Number 6. Kotor, Montenegro. Kotor hides inside a fjord-like bay along the Adriatic coast, tucked behind mountains so steep they practically swallow the town whole. A medieval fortress wall climbs straight up the cliffside above the old town, over 1,350 steps to the very top. Climb it yourself, and you get one of the best panoramic views on this entire list, though the climb itself is steep, exposed, and brutal in midday heat. Cathedral spires, terracotta rooftops, and the bay stretching out below like a painting. Wander the old town at ground level too. Narrow stone alleys open into small squares lined with centuries-old churches, and cats wander freely everywhere. Kotor has practically adopted them as an unofficial mascot. There is even a small cat museum tucked into one of the old town's alleys, which tells you exactly how seriously the town takes it. Cruise ships have started finding Kotor, which means the secret is getting out, and on days when 2 ships dock at once, the old town can feel more crowded than its size can handle. Prices are still noticeably lower than similar coastal towns in Croatia, just a short drive away. Get here before that changes completely. Kotor also makes an easy base for exploring the rest of the Bay of Kotor. Smaller villages along the water, like Perast, are a short bus ride away and see a tiny fraction of the visitors Kotor itself gets. This makes them worth the extra half day if you have it to spare. Kotor gives you cliffs and fortress walls. The next place gives you a lake so still and so perfectly framed that people assume every photo of it has been edited, and it has not. Number 5. Bled, Slovenia. A tiny island church sits in the middle of an alpine lake, ringed by mountains, with a medieval castle perched on a cliff above it all. That is Lake Bled, and yes, it really looks like that in person. Ring a bell inside the island church for good luck. Local tradition says newlyweds who can carry their partner up all 99 steps and ring that bell without help get a happy marriage. Plenty of grooms have tested that theory, and not all of them make it look easy. Rent a traditional wooden boat called a pletna. Row yourself out, and you get one of the most photographed views in all of Europe, minus the crowds you would expect at something this beautiful. Hike up to Bled Castle afterward, perched directly on the cliff above the lake, for a view that puts the entire postcard scene beneath you all at once. Try a slice of kremsnitto while you are there, a custard cream cake the region is famous for. It is not fancy. It is exactly what you want after a long walk around the lake. Bled's one real catch is popularity. The lakefront path gets busy by mid-morning, so the postcard version of this place belongs to early risers. Bled proves a single lake can carry an entire reputation. The next stop needs 5 entire villages, stacked into cliffs to pull off the same trick, and somehow it still feels bigger. Number 4. Cinque Terre, Italy. 5 villages, stacked into cliffs above the Italian Riviera, connected by hiking trails and a single coastal train. Vernazza is the postcard of the group. Colorful houses stacked above a tiny harbor, with fishing boats bobbing below. Manarola gives you the best sunset in the entire country. Full stop, especially from the rocky viewpoint just above the harbor. Skip the car entirely. The train between villages takes minutes. The coastal hiking trail connecting them delivers views that no bus tour could ever match, weaving through vineyards clinging to cliffs above the sea. Each of the 5 villages has its own personality. Rio Maggiore feels like a working fishing town. Cornelia sits highest, away from the water, and gets skipped by the crowds chasing beaches, which makes it one of the quietest stops on the entire route. This place gets busy in summer, so plan for early mornings and late evenings. Do that, and you unlock a version of Cinque Terre that most tourists, stuck on a rushed day trip from a cruise ship, never actually get to see. Buy the Cinque Terre card before you go. It covers train travel between all 5 villages, plus access to the coastal hiking trails. It costs far less than piecing together individual tickets once you arrive at the station and realize how many stops you actually want to make. Cinque Terre stretches its beauty across 5 separate villages. The next place condenses that same kind of wonder into a single town so striking that an entire country on the other side of the planet built a copy of it rather than let its own tourists miss out. Number 3. Hallstatt, Austria. Hallstatt is so beautiful that an entire replica of the town was built in China, just so visitors there could experience the aesthetic without booking the flight. The real thing sits on the edge of an alpine lake. It is wedged between mountains, with a church spire poking up above pastel houses stacked along the shoreline. It looks less like a real place and more like a painting. Someone forgot to stop painting. This town has been continuously inhabited for over 7,000 years, and salt mining here dates all the way back to the Bronze Age. Tour the actual salt mines above town. Then slide down an underground wooden chute that miners have used for centuries to move between levels. The village itself is tiny, home to fewer than 1,000 full-time residents. This is part of why it feels so overwhelmed the moment a single tour bus rolls through. And on peak days, the main viewpoint can feel more like a queue than a lakeside stroll. Time your visit right, and that same smallness becomes the whole appeal. Come in the early morning before the tour buses arrive, and you get to stand in what might genuinely be the most photographed lakeside view on the entire continent. You will be completely alone, with nothing but mountain fog and church bells for company. Even the local cemetery adds to the strangeness of this place. Space is so limited that older graves are periodically exhumed, and the skulls are painted with the names, dates, and floral designs of the deceased, then stored in a small chapel called the Bone House. It sounds morbid written down. In person, it feels oddly respectful, and it is unlike anything else on this entire list. If this list changed how you are planning your next European trip, drop a comment and tell us which one you are booking first. We read every single one, and it helps us know exactly which hidden destinations to research and dig up next. Hallstatt might be the most surreal lakeside town on this list, but the next stop trades mountains for open sea. It is an island so colorful that celebrity photographers reportedly beg their clients not to mention it by name. Number 2. Procida, Italy. Everyone knows Capri. Almost nobody knows its quieter neighbor sitting just across the bay. Procida is a tiny fishing island near Naples, painted in every shade of yellow, pink, and orange imaginable. In 2022, it was officially named Italy's capital of culture, and the secret has only just started getting out beyond the country's own borders. There are no big resorts here, just narrow alleys, family-run trattorias serving the day's catch, and a harbor called Marina Coricella that looks like it was designed by a colorist with an unlimited budget and zero restraint. The island even served as a filming location for the talented Mr. Ripley, though most visitors come now with no idea that connection exists at all. They just come for the color, and the color alone is worth the ferry ride. A day trip from Naples costs a fraction of what a single afternoon in Capri runs during peak season. That price gap alone should be enough to move this island near the top of your list, though it is worth knowing ferries can get canceled without much notice when the sea kicks up, so build in a buffer day if you can. Rent a scooter and circle the entire island in under an hour. Stop wherever the color grabs you, because on Procida, it grabs you constantly. No single photo ever quite captures how loud and joyful the whole palette actually is in person. Procida might be the most colorful island on this entire list, but the town that beat it out for the top spot does something none of these 14 others even attempt. It tears an entire city in half with a gorge nearly 400 feet deep and dares one bridge to hold both sides together. Number 1. Ronda, Spain. Ronda splits directly down the middle by a gorge nearly 400 feet deep, and one single bridge holds the entire town together. The Puente Nuevo, built in the 1700s, took over 30 years to construct and cost several workers their lives during that construction. Stand on it today, and the drop below is genuinely dizzying, even for visitors who consider themselves fine with heights. This is also widely considered the birthplace of modern bullfighting. The city's 18th century bull ring is one of the oldest and most architecturally striking in all of Spain, complete with its own small museum on the sport's history. Ernest Hemingway wrote about this town, and it clearly left a mark on him. He once said a man could not really understand Spain without seeing Ronda first, and standing on that bridge, it is hard to disagree. Whitewashed buildings cling to cliffs on either side of that gorge, and the views from the edge of town stretch across the Andalusian countryside for miles in every direction. Sunset here turns the whole gorge gold, and the crowd thins out just enough by then to actually enjoy it. No canal town on this list, no cave city, no lake, no fjord bay does what Ronda does. Every other stop asks you to admire a view. Ronda splits an entire town in half and asks you to walk across the gap, and that is a completely different kind of unforgettable. Hike down into the gorge itself along the old footpath, and you get an entirely different perspective, looking straight up at the bridge and the cliffside houses towering above you. Very few people bother with the walk down, partly because it is steep and partly because most visitors never realize it exists. That alone makes it worth doing. That is exactly why it earns the top spot. 15 towns, 0 Eiffel Tower, all of them worth the detour. Paris will always be there, waiting patiently with its long lines and its overpriced coffee. These places deserve your attention first, before the crowds figure out what you already know. Want more videos just like this? Click the next video on your screen right now, because the list waiting for you there might be even better than this one. Thanks for watching this far. We put real hours into finding places most travel channels skip entirely. And that only keeps happening if you stick around for what comes next, so we will see you in the next one.